We've all seen it when we're scrolling online. That default gray avatar, the blank silhouette. But have you ever actually stopped to think about what's really going on with that choice? Well, today, we're diving into the pretty surprising psychology of people who decide to go without a profile picture at all.
I mean, it is such a common sight, right? From your social media feeds all the way to professional networks. And while it's so easy to just make a snap judgment, what if that blank space isn't, well, blank at all? What if it's actually telling us a very, very specific story?
Okay, here is the key that changes everything. It turns out psychology tells us this isn't about someone being lazy or just forgetting to upload a photo. No, it is a conscious decision. And that decision reveals a totally fascinating and completely different way of navigating our digital lives. So if it's a choice, what's the first big idea behind it? Well, it all comes down to control. The absence of a picture, it turns out, isn't about hiding. It's about taking deliberate command over your own digital identity. Think about it. A profile picture is this one static, single image that's supposed to represent you everywhere, in every single context. The people who opt out of that, they often want more control. They'd rather decide who sees them and how they're perceived in the moment, instead of letting one photo define them across the board. And this whole behavior is rooted in a really key psychological concept called contextual identity. It's this understanding that our identity isn't just one fixed thing. I mean, who you are in a professional setting is probably pretty different from who you are with your close friends, right? And for some people, protecting that fluidity online is just paramount. And here you can really see the two approaches right next to each other. On the one hand, you've got that standard static profile picture, but on the other, you have the mindset behind the blank avatar. This belief in a dynamic identity that just refuses to be flattened into a single image. This also suggests a much higher comfort level with a bit of ambiguity. These folks don't feel that pressing need to visually define themselves for everyone else. There's just less anxiety about how they might be perceived, because they aren't broadcasting a specific image or status to begin with. Now, this idea of controlling your identity so precisely, it leads us straight to our second big theme. By skipping the profile picture, these individuals aren't just opting out of a feature. They're basically playing by a completely different set of social media rules. And what the psychology here suggests is that this behavior is linked to a much lower need for external validation. They're not out there looking for likes or comments or impressions on their appearance to feel confident or legitimate in an online space. Put simply, their self-worth just isn't tied to how they look. This often leads to a completely different way of engaging online, something we can call the observer's method. They prefer to watch interactions first, get a real feel for the dynamics of a group, and then engage with purpose and selectivity, instead of just broadcasting their presence right from the get-go. It's a much more measured approach. And, without a picture, there's just way less pressure to perform a public persona. This is connected to what's called lower self-monitoring, which just means they're less worried about constantly curating their online image. So the focus naturally shifts from appearance to the actual substance of their ideas and their contribution. Now, let's be super clear about this. This isn't about being antisocial or trying to avoid connection. It's about social filtration. They are consciously choosing who gets deeper access to their personal and visual information. They are the active gatekeepers of their own visibility. And that act of being a gatekeeper brings us to our third and final theme, privacy. This choice is so often rooted in a very clear-eyed, long-term view of the consequences that come with being so visible online all the time. Research in digital psychology shows that people who avoid profile pictures are often way more aware of these key issues. They're thinking about things like facial recognition databases, personal data mining, and the simple, unchangeable fact that what goes online pretty much stays online forever. So with all of this in mind, let's pull it all together and really re-examine our initial idea of that blank avatar. The common myth, right, is that a blank profile picture means someone is antisocial, maybe insecure, or has something to hide. But the psychological reality, it's often the exact opposite. This is a person who is more likely to be deliberate, highly private, and very much in control of their digital footprint. So ultimately, it's a statement, isn't it? In a world that is constantly demanding exposure and personal branding from us, the blank profile picture is a quiet, thoughtful act. It's about carefully considering that complex relationship between our visibility, our identity, and who truly holds the control. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. In our hypervisible, always on world, what if the real power isn't in being seen, but in holding on to the right to be undefined?